Good morning, or afternoon, or evening, whatever the case may be. My name is Leslie Punches, and everybody has to go through orientation, and so this is just to get you acclimated to what we do here at the college. We have two primary instructors, Jeff Brager and myself, and if you need to reach us, we're right here. Here's our phone numbers. You can 382-1788 or 382-1789, and if you're on campus, you can just dial the last four digits and you'll get us. The telephone rings in our office, and it also rings in the welding lab. In addition to Jeff Brager and myself, we also have some adjunct faculty, people that have worked in industry, and if we need somebody to fill in, they'll come in and they'll cover the classes for us. But primarily it's going to be Jeff Brager and I. Both Jeff and I are certified welding inspectors. I've been in this business since 1977. He's been in it about, I would guess since about 1990. So we're well versed in what we're going to impart to you. My background is I spent 9 years in fabrication shops and 4 years in heavy construction in power plants as a boiler maker and a pipe fitter welder. And then I started here at the college in 1991 as a part-time instructor. And after 2 years, they made me a full-time instructor. And in that same year, I got my certified welding inspector and my certified welding educator credentials. And I still go out into industry every year as an inspector. I don't go out as a hand anymore. I don't go out and weld anymore. But I go out as an inspector, and I ruin a lot of people's days because they don't like me to come around. In fact, one job, they took my flashlight away from me because I was finding too many things wrong. But that's another story for another time. So, as far as orientation goes, as I said, Jeff Brager and I are the full-time instructors, and I like to start the orientation by simply going over your course outline. All of these course outlines are very similar. They all contain the same type of information. The one I have in my hand right now is for Weld 1770 GMAW Basic, which is Gas Metal Arc Welding Basic. But you can see from the board that we offer 21 different classes. Starting from oxyacetylene welding and brazing, which is really kind of obsolete. We still offer it as an elective. And some of the mines in our area like people to know how to do oxyacetylene welding and brazing. It's a very versatile little type of welding, and it's good for, like, if you get a crack in an engine block, for example. You can use brazing to repair that crack. Then oxyacetylene cutting. I like everybody to know how to properly use an oxyacetylene cutting torch. And don't think you know how to use one if somebody just showed you how to cut and you can cut two pieces of steel in two. That's not really knowing. If you don't know what a kerf is, if you don't know what a stinger is, if you don't know the reasons behind having the certain gas pressures on your cutting tips, then you don't really know how to use a cutting torch. So I recommend that everybody take this class. It's only a 1-credit class. You can do it in less than 2 weeks. It takes about 12 hours in the lab is about all it takes, 12 to 15 hours in the lab, and then it's out of the way. But it's imperative that you know how to do that. If you're a carpenter, you're going to use a variety of saws to cut your wood. If you're a welder, you're going to use a variety of cutting equipment to cut your steel, and the basic one is knowing how to use an oxyacetylene cutting torch. Later on in Weld 1760, we'll teach you how to do plasma arc cutting and air carbon arc cutting. So you'll come out of here with knowing 3 different ways to cut steel, but it all starts with knowing 1715. So if you have not signed up for it yet, go sign up for it. Next, we get into the shielded metal arc welding, SMAW, shielded metal arc welding. Basic is flat and horizontal, doing fillet welds, and as the name implies, somebody that hasn't done any welding before, that's where we're going to start you, and we'll teach you all the essentials so that you know how to strike an arc and run a bead. Then here, advanced shielded metal arc welding, we're going to weld vertically up and overhead. So here, let me show you real quickly. This is a fillet weld, and this is called a T-joint when we put two pieces of metal together like this. And the weld itself is called a fillet weld. And in basic, you're going to weld in this position. This is actually called the flat position, even though I've got the material tipped on its edge. This is still regarded as the flat position because the axis of the weld, gravity, is pulling down on the liquid metal and spreading it out. Therefore, this is the flat position. If I were to put it on the tabletop like this, now, and then we weld it across like this is called the horizontal position. So that's the difference. Don't mistake this one for what the actual flat position is. So 1755 teaches you how to weld in those two positions using two different welding electrodes. 1760, you're going to do vertical up, like so, and you're going to do overhead. So they're a little more difficult to do. But if you go through these two classes, if you just take these first three classes, you've got a good foundation in how to weld and how to cut, and that would behoove you to know those things if you're going to be in any kind of a maintenance position. Industrial maintenance out here at one of the mines, that teaches you the bare minimum of what you would need to know. And you don't really need to know anymore if all you want to do is build a fence or repair a car or fix a bumper or whatever. After that, I like people that are going to go on for one of our degrees to take stainless steel SMAW. In this, you're going to do all four of these positions, the flat, horizontal, vertical, and overhead, but now you're going to use stainless steel welding electrodes. And a lot of people know how to weld with carbon steel, but maybe 10% of the people out there know how to weld with stainless steel. So if you can go right on into stainless steel, you're going to have a foot up on the competition. Knowing how to weld stainless steel can help you get a job. After that, we go to groove welding plate. And in groove plate, this is an example of groove plate. You can see we take two pieces of steel here, and we fit them together, and we're just going to weld it out. And this is called a groove weld. And you'll fill it and cap it, and then we're going to bend it. We're going to take it and we're going to bend it like this has been bent. And this is called destructive testing. And we can check to see how good your weld is. And this is the first class that we offer that you can become a certified welder in. You can be certified in plate. Western Wyoming Community College is an American Welding Society accredited testing facility. So we have been sanctioned by the American Welding Society to certify welders, and we can also enroll you in the American Welding Society Certified Welder Program. For an extra $30, you can send in an application along with a copy of your records that says that you passed that test, and the American Welding Society will send you back a wallet card showing what you're qualified in, and they'll put you in their computer system. In addition to that, Jeff Brager and we will issue you certification papers on our own, which under the American Welding Society, structural steel, those are perfectly good to take anywhere and go to work with. It's a little different under the ASME code and the API code in that any company you go to work for under those codes, they are supposed to give you their own test as one of the functions of that code. Some of them don't. Some of them will accept what we would write for you, but technically they're supposed to give you their own test. So since I'm on the subject of groove welds and certification, I want you to take a look at our program options. This certification will be an individual weld certification. So you can pick that up, and then all of these bulleted items, these are all separate certifications that we give. As you go through the program, you can pick up all of these certifications. You can get one in Schedule 80 pipe, you can get one in downhill pipe, you can get one in gas metal arc and flux core, you can get them in gas metal arc pipe, flux core pipe, sub arc, TIG pipe, stainless pipe. All of those things have weld certifications attached to them. You don't have to certify, but the whole idea of this program is to make you employable, to make you a professional so that you can go out there and do this stuff to a level that is required by the codes. Everything we do here is to make you a certified welder, to meet those national codes. So whereas we can teach anybody how to strike an arc and run a welding bead, it takes talent to be a code welder. Code welders get paid a lot more than non-code welders. The highest in our area is nearly $40 an hour for a certified boiler tube welder. All of the local mines, the Trona mines, their top people are making somewhere in the mid-30s as certified welders. But if you're a non-code welder, you're going to be in the $15 to $20 range. So there's a vast difference in the amount of money that you can make. Also, you would be in demand a lot more as a code welder than as a non-code welder. Second thing we offer is a one-year certificate. To earn a one-year certificate from Western, a one-year certificate in welding, you have to have 24 credits of welding. So that's essentially 8 classes. Plus you have to have 3 tech classes. You have to have blueprint reading, industrial safety, and metallurgy. And for a total of 33 credits. And then that will earn you the one-year certificate. If you want to go for a 2-year degree, now you have to add English and history, political science, and mathematics. And you have to pick up the academic end of it to get the 2-year degree. And we would award you an Associate of Applied Science degree then in any one of these 3 different options. We have 3 different options for the welding program. If you wanted to work in fab shops, you'd go after the fabrication shop certificate or degree. If you wanted to work in the coal mines or underground at the trona mines, you would go for the mine maintenance degree. And if you wanted to work for one of the unions, like the Boilermaker Union or the Pipe Fitters Union, or you wanted to work surface maintenance at one of the trona mines, you would go for the industrial plant degree. All of these are spelled out in your book, and I don't seem to have a book here, in the catalog. There's a catalog that we come out with every year, and you can look up all those requirements for first and second year classes that you would have to take to earn those. So that takes care of the 3 different ways you can progress through the class, through the program. And we get a lot of people that come in here just to get certified. A lot of people want to go and get certified in pipe, and then they leave. That's because they've accomplished their goal. They have become employable. They've become a certified welder, and so they can go out and go to work. If you were to go to work, if you wanted to apply at one of the trona mines, the basic welding level they want you at is right here. This is 6-inch Schedule 80 pipe. That would be a piece of pipe like this. It's almost a half an inch thick, and you've got to be able to weld it in all positions. To give you the test, we'd actually give you a test in what's called the 60 position, and it'd be sitting like this. So this is what you would want to be shooting for. Now, let me go back to the course outline. Every one of these, as I said, will be about the same, and it'll tell what course it is: Weld 1770, Gas Metal Arc Welding Basic, and this is for the fall of 2010. This is September 1st, 2010. This is a 3-credit class. Jeff Brager and I are the instructors, and this class should take about 15 hours of book work. That's where the class hours come in, and typically it'll take about 60 hours in the lab of actually welding. But our classes are all self-paced. So if you have some previous experience, or you're just more talented than the next guy, you can get done faster. So you can move as fast as you can, as fast as you want. You can take the entire semester to do one class if you want to. But typically, they should be done in about 75 hours total, is about what you're going to have to put into it. The book you're going to need for this particular class is this one. This is the book we're currently using, Welding Principles and Practices by Sachs and Bonart. When I adopted this a few years ago, it was $62.50, and now the brand new copy is up to, what'd you have to pay for your book? $140. So, and the other thing about this, not only once you adopt a book do they start bumping the price up every year, but about every 5 years they revise it. And so in 5 years I'm going to have to tweak the program a little bit to meet the new stuff, and I may even change books at that time. Because when it comes time to adopt a new book, I always look at what's out there and I try to get the best book that I can find. And currently, this is the best book that I can find. This book is good for the majority of these classes. If you get into the pipe classes, however, you're going to need a second book. And this is that second book. Pipe Welding Procedures by Hubasar Rampal. This guy is employed by, or used to be employed by, the Hobart School of Welding up in Ohio. And in my 33 years, this is the best book about pipe welding that I've ever come across. Costs about $35, and it's probably something that you're going to want to hang on to. It's not very expensive, but it's got a lot of great information in it. One class that I have up here we're not offering right now because it's the fall semester. This class right here, Weld 2670, welding inspection. I only offer that in the spring. It's a 16-week class. You have to come in every Thursday night, and it's scheduled to run from 5 o'clock until 9 o'clock, although we usually get done around 8, between 8 and 8:30 every Thursday. This particular class is designed to teach you all you need to know to be a welding inspector. Everything you need to know. When you're done with that class, you can go and take the CWI exam, and you would have a better than average chance of passing that class, passing that and becoming a CWI. There are certain experience requirements that the American Welding Society insists that you meet before they'll allow you to take that test, but this will give you all of the basic fundamental information you need to pass the test. And I'll get into the test more at the time this comes up, at the time we offer it, but we don't offer it until the spring. And this is a great class for anyone that wants to be an inspector or a foreman or a supervisor or a teacher. I would highly recommend that you take this class. This class is required for the 2-year degree. It's recommended for anybody else. And you can't even take this class until you've gone through 1840, because you won't understand what I'm talking about if you don't have at least that amount of experience and training behind you. I'll be throwing out terms and definitions that you would never have come across. So I won't even let you in that class until you've gone through that. But most of the other ones, the book for that one is the most expensive book that we have. If you were to go on the American Welding Society's website or just do a Google search for this book, you're going to find that you'll have to pay about $360 for this book. Fortunately, the American Welding Society gives us a break because I'm a member, and I've been a member for, 20 years or so. Plus, we're an educational institution, and you can buy this from our bookstore for $220. So it's still expensive, but it's so chock full of information that, again, this is going to be one of those books that you're going to want to hang on to for the rest of your working career. So going back to our outline then, that covers the books that we have. Some of these classes will have a prerequisite. We won't let you into some classes unless you've done some previous training. For example, in Weld 1770, we won't let you in 1770 until you've taken this class or have experience equivalent to having taken that class. And it would be up to the individual instructor to grant you permission to go in that class if you haven't gone through our program and taken these previous ones. Transferability. Western Wyoming is part of the Wyoming Community College Commission, and we all have common course numbers. So if you take a class here, any of these welding classes should transfer to any other Wyoming community college. If, however, you're going to you end up transferring out of state someplace, like the Colorado School of Mines or Salt Lake Community College or wherever, they may or may not accept our classes as credit at their classes. The best thing you can do, and do this with all of your classes that you take at Western, is keep your course outlines. Keep your course outlines, put them in a 3-ring binder, hang on to them, just in case you have to leave. Because the way transfer works is you go someplace else, they're going to want to know, what did you study? Okay, you said you studied plate welding. Okay, well, but what did you really study? This would detail exactly what you studied. And they would look at that and go, oh yeah, we do that. Okay, yeah, that's right. Okay, we'll grant you full credit. Typically, however, they only grant partial credit. When I have people coming through here from another school, I'll look at what they studied and how they studied it, and I'll give them sometimes full credit, but typically I'll just give them partial credit. But you're not going to get any credit if you don't give them this. So hang on to your course outlines for whatever classes you take up here. Course description, it just describes what you're going to learn. And then the objectives. What do we want you to achieve here? And all of our course objectives are going to include some of these life skills, WWCC's goals. And those are common for all of the classes that we teach and all the classes that are taught across the campus. So read that over. Attendance, now, because we're an open entry, open exit course, we don't take attendance every day. I don't stand at the front of the class and ask if Jane and Bobby are here. That doesn't happen. What we have is an attendance log, and it's on a clipboard like this one, and it's in the welding lab right next to the tool room. It is required that you sign in to that attendance log every time you come to class. If you come twice a day, sign in twice a day. I have to have that. That's our official attendance log. I have to have that to show that you've been here. Because every year, 2 or 3 different entities on campus call me up and they ask, okay, when was this person here last? And then I have to go through there and I have to look it up and tell them when you attended. And this can affect your financial aid. Not only do they want to know the last date of attendance, they want to know how often you were coming to class. And if I don't have that information, if your name's not on that attendance log, then you weren't at class. Okay? So make sure you sign in. There's been issues about that in the past, people claiming to come to school, but they haven't signed up, and it can adversely affect them if they don't sign in. So make sure you sign into the attendance log. Methods of instructions. A lot of things are going to be on videotape, but most of the training takes place in the welding booth with either Jeff Brager or I. That's where we watch what you do. That's where we instruct you on how to do it, and we'll look at any mistakes you're making. We'll do all the corrections, answer any questions. So most of it takes place in the welding booth, but there are video lectures, there are training films, and here in a minute we'll talk about the essay. Methods of evaluations. To get a letter grade, it's always A, B, C, D, and F. However, if you want just a pass-fail grade, we can give you a pass-fail. This would appear as a U or an S on your transcript. U would be unsatisfactory, S would be satisfactory. And if you want one of those, you have to let me know in writing that you want a pass-fail grade. And it does not count towards either of these. A pass-fail grade will not get you a 1-year certificate or a 2-year degree. A pass-fail grade means that you simply want to learn how to weld. The advantage is you don't have to do any book work if you want to call that an advantage. Personally, I like to know why things work the way they do, so I would recommend you go for the letter grade. But we do get people in here that all they want to do is weld and not do any book work. That's fine. Your choice, your life, your goal. But I do have to know in writing that you want to do that. So get with me or get with Jeff Brager and say, I want to have a pass-fail grade, and you'll have to write it out, and it'll go in your student file. Now, half of your grade will come from your written exams, and the other half of your grade will come from the actual welds that we ask you to do. Every course outline will have a section that says major units of study, and it details everything that you're going to do in that particular class. These are where your performance tasks come from. This one's kind of long because there's a lot of stuff in there. In this particular class, gas metal arc welding, you're going to learn how to weld carbon steel, aluminum, and you're going to be using 2 different processes, gas metal arc and flux core arc. So that's going to be half your grade. The other half comes from the written tests, and this particular class has 3 written exams. And the way the written exams work is you will check out the lecture video for whatever chapter test you want to take. We have places you can watch this here in this classroom of ours, or in the x-ray room, or upstairs in the library. Just go to the front desk at the library and say, I need to watch a video, and they'll set you up with it. You watch the video, you review the material in your book. If there's anything you don't understand, you get with Jeff Brager or myself, and we will go over it with you so that you do understand it. We don't want you to just read it, we want you to comprehend it. I always like to say, you see it, read it, write it, and remember it. And that's the best way to learn. See it, read it, write it, and remember it. And so if there's anything you don't understand, we will explain that to you until you do understand it, until you do comprehend it. So you take your written exams, and as I said, that will be half your grade, and then these will be the other half. And a lot of these are pass-fail on these major units of studies, but a lot of them are also on a point system. Like if you were doing fillet welds, for example, and you brought me a fillet weld to look at, we would give you a grade of 1 to 10 on that fillet weld. And then we would add all those grades together and come up with a grade for the performance portion of this. And then we would do the same thing with your written exams. We would take them and we would average them all together and come up with a percentage there. And then we'd simply add the 2 halves together, divide by 2, and there you go. That would be your grade. Next we have a note, and it says, well, before I read it, let me explain. As I mentioned earlier, all of these stars are all where you can certify. You can certify here, you can certify here. So we'll give you an opportunity to certify. But if you finish a class, like let's say you're in 1840, and well, the semester doesn't end until December 9th this year, but let's say you get done October 5th. Well, if you're done October 5th, we're not going to let you keep coming in and using material day after day after day after day after day, and then you come up on December 7th and say, okay, I'm ready to try to certify. That's not going to happen. As soon as you complete this class, that's where this note comes in. It says, after completion of this course, the student will be offered an opportunity to take a weld certification test. The instructor will determine whether or not the student's skill level is sufficient to meet this challenge. Students will not be permitted open-ended practice time once the final test position has been accepted. However, they will be allowed 4 additional lab sessions before you take the test. So that essentially is 12 hours of practice time to get ready to take the test. And then we'll give you the test. If you don't make the test, don't sweat it. Move on to the next class. If you were to go into this one here, Schedule 40 pipe, and pass that, this is a superior certification to this. So if you pass this, you're automatically covered for this. This is a superior certification to this. So if you pass this, you're covered for both of those. Even if you don't know if you could pass it or not, it's not a bad idea to try. If you were to walk in off the street and ask us to give you a weld certification test, that test would cost you $285. Okay? However, we include it as part of your course. We give you that chance as part of your course. So you're just better off signing up for a class than you are to walk right in and say, I want to take a test. Okay, that brings me to the essay requirement. Everyone, whether you take one class or all 21 classes, is required to do an essay one time. The college has a program that they call Writing Across the Curriculum. Everybody is supposed to have a writing assignment for every program that they're a part of. In our writing assignment, you'll get a piece of paper like this, and it details what you have to do. For us, you're going to choose any topic of interest to you about welding. I don't care what it is. I've gotten 100 of them on underwater welding. I've gotten them on back during the Second World War when they built Liberty ships and the techniques they used to build Liberty ships. I've gotten them for everything you can possibly conceive of. And then you're going to write me an essay. It's going to be 250 to 400 words, which is about 1.5 pages to 2 pages. You're going to type it, double space it. Then on a separate piece of paper, you have to cite your sources. Where did you get your information from? In the opening paragraph, you're going to tell me what you're going to talk about. Then you're going to give me 3 or 4 paragraphs talking about it. And then finally, in your last paragraph, you're going to make your conclusions. In conclusion, I have determined that the sun rises in the east and the sky is blue. You wrapped it all up. Okay, that's what I want you to do. Then, on specific days, you'll have to go to your welding essay instructions for this. There are 3 specific days that you can present your essays, because you have to present them in class. It's part of the requirements of this Writing Across the Curriculum. And you're going to stand up here, and essentially you become the teacher. You're going to teach us what your favorite topic about welding is. And you're going to read your paper, and then you're going to be prepared to answer questions related to your paper. There'll be a few people in here. Typically, there's not more than 4 or 5 people at a time when somebody reads their essay. So don't be all nervous. It's an easy thing to do. And we'll ask you some questions, and you answer them. And then I'll collect your essay, and it'll go in a file. And a lot of times we send them over to the English department for review so that they can monitor how well a job we're doing. There is no bonus for doing your essay, but there is a penalty for doing your essay. It says down here that failure to complete this essay will result in the reduction of your grade by 1 level. This essay must be completed during your first semester. Therefore, it is important for your overall score to complete this assignment early in the semester. You can wait until the very last day of the semester to present your essay, but if you were to get it out of the way at the end of the first 5-week block, then it's done, and you don't have to worry about it. So that's what I would recommend. But if you don't do your essay your first semester at Western, it's going to affect your grade. Instead of getting an A, you're going to get a B. Instead of getting a B, you're going to get a C, and so forth. So make sure you get your essay turned in. Then we have some more notes down here, and it's about the fee that you pay for each class. If you're a full-time Wyoming resident, you can sign up for 12 college credits. That would be like, let's say, 4 welding classes. That's 12 credits typically. Okay, that makes you a full-time student. You can take between 12 and 21 credits, and they don't charge you any more for tuition. The tuition for those next 7 credits is free, or next 9 credits, it's free. However, there is a lab fee, and not just for welding. There's lab fees for all kinds of stuff, for music and art and all that stuff. There's all kinds of fees. So I've been talking about 1840, so let me look at that one. Weld 1840 groove welding plate, the fee is $100. Okay, what do you get for your $100? That's where this note comes in. Lab fees paid for this course provide for 50 sets of plate. Now, this happens to be 1770, so we're talking about this type of plate. So you get 50 sets. That's enough to make 100 welds. Okay? 100 welds. It says most students taking this class will complete the course before using all of the materials that you're allowed. If, however, you use more than the allowable amount of material, you will be charged an additional material fee. So you want to get done within that 100 welds, or it's going to cost you another $100, or whatever the fee is. Our most expensive fee is here, stainless steel, and that's $120. I think this one here, Schedule 80 pipe, is also $120 material fee, and that's because a stick of this pipe, we buy them in 20-foot lengths, and a 20-foot length of 6-inch Schedule 80 pipe is about $800. So your $120 fee doesn't come close to meeting the expense, the actual cost of it. It costs about $6,000 a year to train somebody in welding. So your fees, it's just a nominal fee. It helps out the program, but it does not pay for it. So I would ask you, the point I'm trying to make is make sure that you reuse these things. Use them up. Where's that other specimen I just had? You see here, here's 2 pieces of material right here, and there's been a weld made. But look, now this is still good, and this is still good. So this can be cut in 2, and you can make another weld out of it. And that's the point we're trying to get across, is to use them up completely. Steel is very, very expensive. Welded electrodes are very, very expensive. This class right here, stainless steel, shoulder metal arc welding, stainless steel welded electrodes are $10 a pound. That's where they start. Inconel's $30 a pound. So it's very expensive. Let's see. Incompletes. Again, here's where the attendance log comes in. Remember, you've got to sign in. There's only 2 ways I can give a person an incomplete. An incomplete is kind of like a get-out-of-jail-free card. If you're unable to finish the class you signed up for during the fall semester, you can come back in the spring semester and just pick up where you left off, just like it was the next Monday. But you have to be given an incomplete. And there's only 2 ways I can give you an incomplete. The first one is if something comes up in your life that was unexpected. They call it extenuating circumstances. You broke your leg, okay? Or the company you're working for decided to send you to West Virginia for 6 weeks to work on a project. Those are extenuating circumstances beyond your control. You let me know about that. You let me know when you expect to be back, or when you're able to go back in and do some work, and we'll make a note of it. And then when the end of the semester rolls around, you can say, Les, remember I talked to you about this. Can I get an incomplete because I wasn't able to finish? Then I can give you an incomplete. The only other way I can give you one, you have to meet 3 conditions. And they are, you have to be halfway done with whichever class you were working in. You have to be carrying a C average, and you have to be attending regularly. Now that doesn't mean that you come in when there's 2 weeks left in the semester and you say, I'm ready to start now. You're not going to get an incomplete if that happens. But if you're here today and you come in 2 or 3 times a week throughout the course of the semester, then you've been attending regularly, and it's pretty easy to give you an incomplete under those circumstances. But if you spend all your days down in the game room playing pool, you're not going to get an incomplete from me. Appropriate student behavior. Essentially, this is college. We treat you like an adult. We expect you to behave like an adult, respect other people. There won't be any harassment of any kind, no lewd comments about other people, none of that. The college has the right to dismiss you from class, dismiss you from the program if that happens. Students with special needs, I've trained people in wheelchairs. Okay, I've trained a lot of people that have difficulty comprehending things. There are programs out there that on campus that can help you in a variety of ways, and right here where it says students with special needs, there's some contact information there, and you can get in touch with those people, and those people will get in touch with me. We got to kind of go through the chain of command here, and then we can make whatever accommodations are appropriate for you. Finally here, the last page of every course outline is going to have a student study guide. It'll say gas metal arc welding on this particular run, what book it's going to come out of, what chapter, what pages you're supposed to read, what films you're supposed to watch. And then down here at the bottom, final performance tests. Now this comes from the major units of study. You would be graded on these particular items. And as I mentioned earlier, half the grade comes from the written, half the grade comes from the performance. So, Zach, do you have any questions? Okay, let me mention a couple of other things. Lab hours. The welding lab is open Monday through Thursday from 9 in the morning until noon, and then from 1 o'clock until 9 o'clock in the evening. We shut down for the lunch hour. Nobody can work in the lab during that time. There has to be an instructor available. However, occasionally we'll be testing a welder for industry. And if that's the case, I'll come in early or Jeff will come in early, and we're responsible just for that person or persons that we're testing. But that doesn't mean students can go in there and work. You can't. We start at 9 in the morning. We'll take a break at 10:30, and then we'll have lunch at noon. We'll come back at 1 o'clock, and then we'll take a break at 2:30. Now, here it says 5:30, and it says break, and it says instructor's lunch hour. The way our program used to work, we used to shut down from 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock. We took 2 hours right out of the middle of the afternoon, and we did paperwork, and we met with students, we had office hours, we had our lunch, and then we came back at 6 and went back to work. Well, several years ago, we decided to keep the lab open all the time. Okay, so that's what we do. We keep it open from 1 o'clock to 9 o'clock, an 8-hour stretch. Somewhere in there, the instructor has to have lunch. And so we take our lunch break at 5:30, and we're in our offices. Usually we're in our offices, and we're going to have our dinner. And I would prefer it if you don't interrupt us while we're eating our lunch. If, however, something's happened that where we need to know about it, then come and get us, because our offices are right across the hallway. Then at 7:30 we take a break, and then we clean up at 8:45. So Jeff or I'll holler clean up. The same thing here at lunch. At a 11:45, we'll holler clean up, and you are required to clean up your booth. Clean up your booth, return any of our tools back to the tool room. Other responsibilities that you have to provide your own safety glasses and gloves. We'll give you everything else you need. However, I do recommend you have your own hood. Okay? It's up to you, but because we have loaner hoods, but you're better off using your own. There's no tobacco of any kind allowed in the welding lab, and you cannot park out here. There's no parking outside the T&I wing, so I recommend to everybody, there's a parking lot right here on the hill where this big white storage tank is. There's a student parking up there, and you just walk down the sidewalk and you're here. So if all your classes are down here on this end of the college, then come around here and park up there on the hill, and it's a lot shorter than parking out there and walking all the way in from the front parking lot. None of the videos, none of our training videos or lecture videos can leave the T&I area, with the exception of taking them up to the library to watch them up there. You can't take these films back to your room. You can't take them off campus. You can't take them home. You can't download them to your computers. These are proprietary information, proprietary products that belong to the college. They have to stay down in the T&I wing. Okay? We have a 3-strike policy, and again, this is campus-wide. If you violate any of these rules and conditions, we'll talk to you about it, and that would be your verbal warning. And we'll make a note in your file that we talked to you about this particular instance. If it happens again, we'll put it in writing. And then that would go, at that point, we would take it to the academic dean and make them aware that we're having issues. And it's not just once, it's a repeat issue. If it happens a third time, you'll be dismissed from the program. Okay? There are certain rights of appeal that you have. You'd have to take that up with the appropriate college office, but I would dismiss you from the class and we would go from there. I've already talked about the essay requirements. One last thing on that is there's no plagiarism. You can't cut and paste something off of the computer. If that happens, that's a big no-no, and that could get you dismissed from college right away. They take it very seriously. You can't steal somebody else's words. What you can do is read somebody else's words and put it into your own words. You can do that. Although I prefer that you go and retrieve this information and formulate your own essay. Just don't go stealing from somebody else. Finally, Mary Powell is our lab assistant. She's been here for 15 years. And she can give you a locker, issue you a locker, and show you where all the films are at, and make it easy. She's really good. She's really helpful. And the lockers aren't very big. They're only about as big as a computer screen. But you can fit your hood and your personal tools in there. But that's about it. She might even issue you 2 if she has enough. I don't know. Finally, let's see if I've covered everything. Course outlines, open entry. We are open entry, open exit, as I mentioned. What that also means is if you've signed up for a class or 2 and we haven't gotten to the start of the last 5-week block, which this year the last 5-week block starts November 2nd. If you're done and you got 5 weeks left and you don't know what to do, you can take another class. You can go sign up for another class if you want to, and take another, because you still have 5 weeks left, and that would be plenty of time to finish it. They will not let you sign up after the start of the last 5-week block. So there is that. That brings us then to how do we get you started in the lab? Well, everybody has to watch certain safety films. And you should have one of these sheets. And what this is, it just has the name of 3 different safety films. You're not tested on these films. You just have to watch them. You watch them, then you initial here, here, and here, and then you sign it and date it. And then down here you have to clearly print your name so that we can read it. Again, let me emphasize, this is college. You're an adult. You're expected to do college-level work, and that starts with writing legibly. When you're doing these written exams and you do some of those fill-in-the-blank, if I can't read your answer at a glance, it's going to be marked wrong. There's not an excuse for not writing legibly. Even if you're not sure of the spelling, still write it clearly for me so that we can read it and understand it. So once you're done watching these safety films and you've initialed all of this, you're done with that portion. And then the final thing you would have to do is you have to watch Chapter 31 out of this blue book, out of your blue textbook. Jeff Brager will give that lecture. And what it is, that's the safety chapter out of the book. You're going to watch that, you're going to review the book, you're going to read it, and you're going to take that written exam. That's the first written exam everybody's required to take. It's 25 questions long, 20 on one side, 5 on the back side, and I mention that on purpose because some people forget to turn the darn thing over and they miss 5 questions. You've got to score 90% on that test before we'll let you work in the lab. Okay? If you don't score it the first time, we will review what you missed with you. You'll go back to your book, you'll read it, you'll find the answers. Again, remember my mantra, you have to see it, read it, write it, remember it. That's the way you learn. And you'll take it again, and if you have to take it a third time, you'll take it a third time until you get 90%. All other tests you can take twice. We'll let you take them a second time. But this particular safety test, you'll take it again and again until you score your 90%. Okay. Any questions? Okay, I hope I haven't intimidated anybody. It's really a pretty easy program. It's pretty laid back. And we're just here for one purpose, and that is to train you so you can have a better job and achieve your goals. So see me or Jeff Brager if you have any questions. Thank you.